We are ready to roll. Hello, guys. I am getting ready to record a podcast. This is my second podcast of the day that I'm recording. And I have a little treat for you for today's video episode. I'm so confused on what is happening right now. This is a little trippy. But for this week's video, I wanted to share the video from this week's podcast that I put up, 3 lessons that I learned in my 32nd year. It was my birthday. When this video goes up, I'll have been 33 for a year. This is what happens to my brain at the end of the day, you guys. So 3 lessons that I learned at 32 heading into my 33rd year. It was a big year for me. There was a lot of important ones, and I just wanted to share those with you guys and also get your feedback on video for different podcasts. So I would love it if you guys gave this a listen. It's going to be a much longer one than our usual vlogs, but I would love to hear your feedback. So drop it in the comments if you have any thoughts, if you like it, if you don't like those. They're not going to take over vlogs. I love vlogging, but I just thought we would put that out there. And I feel really passionate about what I said in the episode. So I just wanted to make sure that we all saw it and just kind of shared that little moment together. So I will insert that here. I hope you guys like it. Like I said, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But without further ado, enjoy. Hello, guys. We are going to have a little bit just of a chit chat today. I'm sorry, buddy. Theo is sitting next to me here. I got a new blanket. It's a Minky Couture blanket, and let me tell you what, they're pricey, but worth every penny. And Theo is obsessed. He never sits with me on the couch as I record a podcast, but he is just loving this thing. But today, the blanket kind of ties in. Oh, hi. Are you going to say hi to the people, honey? Come here, sweetie. Come to see Mama. Say hello, Mommy. What are we doing? Okay, let's get into it today, friends. So we are going to talk about me being 33. And more specifically, what I learned in my 32nd year on this earth. 32 was a big year for me in learning a lot of life lessons that I really think finally clicked. So I wanted to kind of go through what those were for me and kind of talk about where I want 33 to go. So this is going to be a little bit of a advice/wisdom that I've learned, as well as kind of just looking forward to the next year. So I'm excited to talk about this stuff because, it's interesting. And if you're going to sit here, bud, you gotta, he keeps looking at me and I just want to cuddle with you. I think that there's a balance when you have an online space of, I don't know, there's so many, benefits to sharing as you're going through something and you're actively doing the learning of it. But I also think that can kind of take away from your ability to do the learning and to kind of focus on you. So there's some people who have said, what am I trying to say? Wait till you've gone through it to kind of explain it. And that's really kind of what I've done over the past year, is just really focused on myself, because I think that's kind of the best way to do it. I think you can be transparent about what's going on in your life and what you're learning or what you're struggling with or going through, but it's okay to allow yourself the space to work through it on your own. I personally think that anyone with an online space doesn't owe anyone every single morsel of detail of their life. I kind of think that's part of the, to be honest, messed up world of the online space, is that we think we have all of this access, and not even the access, but the right to know about every person's intimate details of their life. And like I said, I kind of feel like that can make it harder for the person to kind of actually go through and do the learning themselves, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I kind of just wanted to, I feel like I am in, we'll kind of start with where I'm at right now and then look back to the past year. I feel like I'm in the best space that I have been in for a long time. And when I say that, I never want that to come across as like, oh, my life sucked. My life is fabulous. Like I couldn't have dreamed up a better scenario. I mean, I've got my little beagle boy sitting right next to me. I've got the world's most amazing husband 2 floors up working in his office. I mean, I have a roof over my head. I have a house that I'm able to make a home and feel amazing. I have, family close by. I have friends. Like, I think that even over the past year, or when I felt like I didn't feel my best, like I still had all of those things. So but I just feel like I think 32 really allowed me to step into like my most authentic self. Gosh, I hope this doesn't sound like the most cheesy chat that we're going to have, but it's truly just kind of like coming from the heart. I wrote down just a couple of notes here, but I'm not going to lie. I'm a little nervous to record this because I just feel like, ugh, again, with being in the online space, you can say something and people are going to interpret it however the heck they want. And you know what? That's not my problem. I mean, it is. I want to always articulate, and explain myself to the best of my ability, but you can't make someone think a certain way. So if someone has their own deep-seated, thoughts, patterns or something like that, like I'm not going to change that. Right. And one phrase that's really stuck with me, and some people love it, some people hate it, and I think there's a time and a place for it, is it's none of my business what you think of me. I can't remember if it was Hannah Berner or Paige DeSorbo who I heard say that. I think it was on Giggly Squad podcast. But I was like, they had said this in terms of like they're posting on social media of like, hey, if I think this is in alignment with me, or if I am proud of this, whatever it is, like the comment section is really none of my business. And I think that there's obviously caveats to it. You want to make sure you're being a good person. You want to make sure you're being authentically you. You're not hurting someone's feeling. Like, just be a good person, right? And if you say something wrong or you mess up, yeah, learn from that. Take ownership and accountability. I'm not going against any of those things. But I do agree to that in a large extent of like, if you are doing those things and you're being you, and whether you have an online presence or you're just in your everyday life, like, A, you're gonna piss people off. People are gonna dislike you no matter what you do, but it's also none of my business, right? As long as I'm being authentically me, I'm being a good person, like that's all we can do in this life. And if we let others' opinions or thoughts about how we should act influence us, that's only going to hurt us because we're catering to other people rather than living our own lives. But okay, I digress, you guys. This is going to be a really chatty little episode here, but I want to make sure we stay on track because we know Colleen can chit chat, and get sidetracked. But let's get into the 3 lessons. Let's get a little bit more structure back into this episode of the 3 lessons I learned in my end year. So the first lesson that I learned is that nervous system regulation is incredibly important. It is underrated, and I think it is something that the majority, if you are living in modern society, you probably need some nervous system regulation. This is something that I've really grown to become very, very passionate about over the past year. And it's something that I have learned is really kind of like one of the foundational building blocks of your body being regulated. If you are working on health and wellness in any capacity, whether it's your mental wellness, whether it's your physical wellness, whether it's all of it, you need to be focusing also on nervous system regulation. Now, I don't want you to automatically, we're going to walk through a little bit of like what that actually means because it's something that I didn't fully understand until I kind of like started practicing it more and integrating it and becoming more aware of it. But I just think that this is like the next wave of a huge focus in the health and wellness industry, and something that is, I always kind of explain it like this. Okay. You guys know I love a good analogy, and I have a few of them throughout this episode for you. But if you are focusing on trying to better yourself in any way or just feel good and your nervous system is out of whack, then it's going to be like, pretend I'm holding a colander here. Okay. It's going to be like you focusing on your health and wellness. You're putting all these amazing things into your colander, but it's going to seep out because we don't have that strong foundational nervous system regulation, which, like I said, most of the population has I would bet to say has a dysregulated nervous system. So essentially, the nervous system is, in a nutshell, we're going to keep this super high level so I don't bore you guys to death, but it's your body's communication and control network. It includes like your brain, your spinal cord, your nerves, hormones, a lot of different things in the body, essentially just to keep everything as it should be, right? The body is actually so amazing, you guys, with how many systems it has set up. And again, this is one that a lot of people just kind of like overlook because it's something that I honestly feel like we take for granted. When we take it for granted, that's when it becomes dysregulated. And then we realize like, okay, I feel like crap. So it's essentially, it regulates everything from movement to digestion to our mood, to our sleep response, stress response. All of those things are regulated by this kind of amazing network that's called our nervous system in our bodies that just works for us, okay? And essentially, it's how you respond, how you react to things. So there's the parasympathetic nervous system. You might have heard of this. Again, I'll keep it high level. And the parasympathetic and sympathetic. Now, the sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight, okay? It is when you are being chased by a mountain lion, okay? And it's like, whoa, okay, we need to either, fight this thing or flight. Now, what happens in that is you are going to get this rush of kind of this like adrenaline, this energy, this stress response, and it's going to allow you to act. Now, you're probably like, Colleen, I don't get chased by a mountain lion on a daily basis, so I don't really know if this applies to me. Well, let me tell you what, do you ever open your email and be like, oh, I don't want to see that? Or, oh, what does that email say? Oh, I got a little nerves. Fight or flight response is probably being activated. In our modern society, our bodies don't know if the stress that we're having, whether it's from work, whether it's from a relationship struggle that you're having, it doesn't differentiate the stress from that between being chased by a mountain lion, okay? And if we think about this, okay, where are we going with this? How often do we encounter stressors in everyday life? It feels like, and this is how I describe anxiety for me. I've struggled with general anxiety disorder since I was in high school. I will just feel like I'm being chased by a mountain lion. I could be standing in my kitchen doing, having a lovely brunch with my husband, and I will feel like I'm being chased by a mountain lion. Like, that's how I describe anxiety. But for me, someone with anxiety, that just happens out of nowhere. There isn't really always a trigger to it. But in modern society, a lot of people can probably relate to this because we have all of these external stress triggers going on. So that's the sympathetic. Now, the parasympathetic is the rest and digest, okay? It is when our body's like, okay, we're safe, we can relax, we can recover. And so we have kind of those two systems, right? The parasympathetic and the sympathetic. We have the stress response, and then we have the relaxation. The issue and where this dysregulation comes in is when we're not able to shift back and forth between those two. Now, the sympathetic nervous system, the stress response, we want that. Okay, that's not a bad thing because it allows us we need stress in our life. Okay, whether it's, like I said, we're being chased by a mountain lion, or we just need a little bit of a fire under our behind to get a, task for work done or something like that. Stress is not always bad. But when we lack the ability to go back and forth and have that flexibility between stress and the more rest and digest, that's when kind of this nervous dysregulation. Now, it can happen the other way where we get too stuck in the sympathetic and when we get stuck in the parasympathetic and we lack the sympathetic. So we are stuck in this kind of like rest, la, 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 and we don't have enough stress. That can also happen. But a lot of people, again, today's modern society, have that stress domination. And it's like we don't shift out of that. Our cortisol levels, I know that's like such a buzzword, but cortisol is essentially just our stress hormone. So it doesn't need to be this like whole thing where you need this cortisol reset in your hormones the way that, social media can talk about it. But it's our stress hormone. Okay. So a lot of times, yes, a lot of us do have elevated cortisol levels because we're stuck in that sympathetic, that stress, that fight or flight. And our bodies begin to lose the ability to shift back and forth between those two. That a lot of times is this dysregulation. Now, I do want to be clear that, again, stress isn't bad, and nervous system dysregulation doesn't mean isn't the same as stress. Nervous system dysregulation is when you have this more long-standing stress, and again, that inability to kind of shift between the two or an imbalance of those things. Again, stress is very, very normal, whether it's you just had a new baby and you're feeling stressed, you just moved, you just started a new job. There's going to be these sometimes longer periods, these seasons of stress, and that's normal, right? But when we get stuck in these things, that's when a lot of things can kind of go downhill. And it's one of those things that it slowly builds and you don't realize the progression of it. I do think that one of the biggest things when it comes to health and wellness is that we don't understand how crappy we feel, or that we could feel so much better because we get so used to things on a day-to-day basis. We don't see those slow progressions necessarily over time when it's happening to us. So for me, my nervous system was completely dysregulated, and we'll kind of get into why, but I didn't realize it was, this all came about with my therapist. At some point we started talking about the nervous system and I totally geeked out on it, but it's just something that I didn't even realize I was feeling so bad until I was like, let me try to make some changes and see if I can feel better. And then I was like, whoa, my gosh, I did not realize how much of a pit I was living in. So nervous system, again, we talked about the difference between stress and nervous system dysregulation. Here's a good analogy for you. So stress is like when someone is hitting the gas pedal in your car. You're like, okay, I need to go, right? You can easily take your foot off the gas pedal. It's not stuck. Yes, you're going fast, but it's not something that is, like I said, kind of stuck, or there's still some sort of control over it, right? You're still able to take the foot off of the gas pedal. Now, dysregulation is when you press down on the gas pedal and it gets stuck. Okay. So your car keeps revving even when the road ahead, is clear, or you are trying to do something else. That gas pedal is stuck. I think that's a good way of explaining it. Now, how can this show up? It can show up as mental and emotional things like anxiety, irritability, just feeling flat or disconnected. That's one thing that I really felt. Sleep troubles. I was having huge troubles with sleep, whether you are waking up in the middle of the night, you're tossing and turning, you're struggling to go to bed, you just feel tired all the time. It can have digestion, side effects to it. It can have bloating, irregular appetite, gut issues, a lot of those things, which a lot of times we just think oh, I just need to try harder, or I just need to change things in my diet, when again, that's not necessarily the root cause of things. Could it be? Sure. But nervous system dysregulation piece, if we never think about that, you can do all the dietary changes you want, but these things are still going to remain. Energy and performance, again, fatigue, difficulty building strength or muscle. And this is one that I felt my workouts completely plateaued. And I would say I didn't lose strength. And that was a big thing that I had kind of told myself of okay, well, you're still lifting the same amount. And I know everyone always says oh, you probably can't lie. Let me tell you what, guys, I may be small, but I am mighty when it comes to strength. And so as I was okay, I'm still, the person lifting, some of the heaviest weights in class. Like, my body's it's fine. Appearance, dull, puffy skin, drained look. I noticed this in myself. I was just like, God, I look like death. I look like death. And I definitely think that was a huge, huge part of it. And just trouble focusing, brain fog, a lot of those things. So it's wide, right? Nervous system dysregulation casts such a wide net. And how do we kind of get back our nervous system regulating? There's so many things that you can do, but I would say thinking through again, what is getting me stuck in this fight or flight, really taking those stressors and really working to manage those. Obviously, always working from like the root, but one of the fastest ways to start to regulate your nervous system is by deep breathing. So even if you can just, whenever you're feeling overwhelmed or just spattering it throughout the day, I like to do this in the morning before I kind of get ready for, heading into transitioning. I think transition times are a really good time to do this, is just to breathe into the mic. Take a few big, deep breaths. That is one of the best ways to regulate your nervous system, because it is going to activate that parasympathetic nervous system and signal, hey, I'm not being chased by a mountain lion. It is okay. And even just that little bit can be incredibly, incredibly helpful. Movement and exercise can definitely, without, going into extremes, regulate the nervous system. Sleep is crucial. I really feel like over the past year, I've learned the importance of sleep, but that's absolutely, absolutely key. And like I said, I think one of the biggest things is reducing those, whatever is stressing you out, to the best of your ability, and making sure that you have a good support system in place to help manage that, because it's not going to go away. And there's going to be, like I said, seasons of life where it's just hard and stressful. And having that system to support you is abso-freaking-lutely huge. Then there is another thing that you can do. So say you do all those things and you just still, maybe you feel better. That's how I felt. So I really started to focus on stress management, and we'll get into some of that in a minute. But sometimes you just need a little extra help. I felt better, but I was like, I'm still just not there. I feel like I'm doing all the things and I'm just still not feeling great. So sometimes medication is going to be super helpful. I went on an SSRI it's been a few months now. And it's, my husband asked me, he's like, so what was your favorite part of your 32nd year? And I said, I think going on the SSRI was one of the best things that came out of my 32nd year. And again, this was after I had been kind of focusing on nervous system regulation for a little bit and really doing what I could. And I just still wasn't there where I wanted to be. I could still feel the anxiety. I could still feel depression coming in. Anxiety is not something that I am a stranger to, but when it started to creep into depression and having both of those, I was like, this is not my normal baseline anxiety. This is something that needs to be addressed. I reached out to my primary care doctor and set up a just telehealth appointment, and we talked about it. I have been on anxiety medications before. When I was in high school, to be honest, I didn't feel like it worked. So we knew we didn't try that one. I also then went on another one after I felt like that one didn't really work for me. And that one actually made it worse and gave me kind of like suicidal ideation. So while it might seem like, oh, she prescribed one, it was great, you started to feel better, amazing. We had a little trial and error earlier on, and that part sucks. So it can be trial and error. I'm taking right now, Lexapro, I think, just the generic of it. And that's working really well for me. It might not be the one for you. I know there's lots of other ones. The one that I had the suicidal ideations on works great for other people. So this is not, as always, the disclaimer, this is not medical advice, you guys. This is just me sharing my story. Definitely talk to your own provider, get your own lab tests done, do your own work that you need to do for your body, and be your own advocate. But I went on SSRI, which is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Yes. So with that, it really regulates your serotonin. So With this, that can also have some like different nervous system benefits as well. Oh my gosh. When I say I noticed benefits or improvements pretty soon, I would say within the first like 2 weeks. I don't mean this to be like a full rundown of my journey with an SSRI. We can go into that. That could take its whole thing, but I'll give you kind of the short and sweet version here. But I started to notice benefits in the first couple weeks just based on how I felt. It wasn't until a couple months, I would say really recently in the past like month or two, where I felt like my body was starting to become regulated. So you might start to, in terms of that, I mean like my appetite, my ability to get stronger, muscle growth. Like I've really felt like I've started to feel those things in my body. And that's something that I think is important. And I talked about this in my last therapy session about how sometimes the body, it- I know there's like lots of books on how the body holds trauma and it takes the body a little bit longer to recover, a couple months, as you're doing this work. It takes, like anything, whenever we make changes, it takes the body a little bit of time to be like, okay, what's happening here? Let me assess the situation. And oh my gosh, I feel so much better. Sleeping better. Sleeping better, I noticed earlier on, but I just feel more myself than ever on an SSRI. And it's just, not saying that's the right choice for everyone, as always, but I definitely think it's something that is, if you're curious about it, if you're just not feeling like yourself, I look back now and I'm like, how did I live the past few years? Like I was not myself. And that's kind of like sad to think about how you have kind of like, I don't want to say like wasted a couple years because I definitely learned from it. I don't think anything is bad or wrong. It's all just a learning experience. But it's kind of sad, but it also makes me really excited because 33 is going to be a great year and we'll get into that in a minute. But okay, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about on nervous system regulation. Like I said, I would expect if you are around here, I think this is I would love to hear your take on this. I think nervous system regulation is a fascinating topic. And like I said, I think it's something that anyone who's focusing on their health and wellness needs to be aware of and integrate. It does not have to be another big task for you, right? I think one of the best things that you can do is in the morning as you start your day. Doesn't mean crack of dawn. I mean, like when you start your day, right? Like you're getting into, okay, now I'm leaving the house or now I'm sitting down to work. Whenever that kind of like transition period from morning time to like doing, just take a couple deep breaths. Physically, again, that is the best way to regulate the nervous system. Physically take a few big, deep breaths to calm your nervous system, to reduce that cortisol. Cortisol is going to be highest in the morning. Naturally, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But again, maybe we don't want to feel like we're being chased by a mountain lion and to allow our body to not be in such a stressful state when we start the day. Because if we never address it, it's just going to build up, build up, build up throughout the day. So take a couple deep breaths and then ask yourself, how did I sleep last night? Am I hydrated? Am I fueled? And do I have a kind of a fuel plan for the day? And that doesn't have to mean meal planning. It just means I'm going to refuel midday, right? Or I'm going to go out for lunch. Or maybe it is I have something prepped for a snack or for breakfast, whatever it is. But just having that base covered and then also asking yourself how you feel with movement. Like, how does your body feel? Do we feel like we are needing a little bit of an endorphin boost? Do we need to get our body moving? Do we need rest, right? Checking in with those foundational areas of how our body functions. And all of those things are needed. That's what I call like our biological needs. So you can sit here and take all the green juice in the world if you want, but if you're not focusing on those things that I just mentioned, the green juice is not going to do crap for you. Like those are the square one of health and wellness. Check in with those. It does not have to be anything big and fancy. It does not have to be a 10-minute morning routine in the morning. Take a couple of those deep breaths. One thing that I also love to do is just try to get a little bit of positivity in the morning, whether that's, reviewing a quote of the day, whether that is maybe for some people that is meditating. I have tried the whole sit on a pillow for 10 minutes things. I love doing it. it's just not practical for me, right? And you could say, oh, that's like a barrier for you. I don't want to do it. Okay. I think that you can there's actually a lot of studies that just minutes of mindfulness and positivity can be just as beneficial as sitting on a pillow. I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying it's not the only way to kind of get that mental clarity and the benefits of meditating. So I'm a big fan of like a quote or inspiring quote of the day and just thinking through, okay, like how can I think about this and carry this with me through the day? That it takes all about 2 minutes to do in the morning. Like I said, doesn't even have to be anything formal. It's going to help regulate your nervous system for the rest of the day. Now, it's not going to fix all of the things, like I said, life stressors, but it's going to get you to a much more stable place. And it's also going to allow you to start to see patterns. If you're like, wow, every day this week I've said I've slept really bad, maybe that's something I need to focus on. If every single day you're like, my body is just so tired and sore, maybe you need a rest day, right? Check in with those things on a daily basis to help kind of regulate some of those things. My gosh, we're 31 minutes in and all I've talked about is nervous system regulation. The other two are really, I promise they won't take so much of your time. Or I don't want to say quick ones because, hi, I'm Colleen. I talk a lot. This is a big one. So number 2, the second lesson that I've learned, number 1, nervous system regulation. We've talked about that to death. Number 2 is I have spent way too much time trying to please others in all areas of my life. And this goes back to, I promise I won't again turn this into such a therapy session. And I do want to also protect the people in my life. I've just never felt good enough. I think a lot of people can relate to that. So I am also an Enneagram type 3. I am incredibly driven. I am incredibly motivated. I'm incredibly competitive. I'm also a Leo. Hello. If you're like, I don't do astrology, I don't do Enneagram, that is basically like energy and do more and competition and just all of these things. And I feel like I've been in this like rat race for so long and just trying to please others, whether it's with business decisions, trying to do everything perfectly, or even with like content creation. I have actually said I don't get to decide what pieces of content that I put out into the world. I don't get to decide what videos I make. I don't get to decide any of this stuff. And I think that, how do I want to say this? Especially in the online space, it's really difficult because you do get direct feedback on what people resonate with, what does well, what doesn't do well. And even like towards my content creation, it's been like, okay, this is what people want from me. This is what people expect from me. And it just got to this place. You guys know, if you follow me, I do all of my filming on Mondays. It got to the place where I dreaded Mondays because I wasn't passionate about this stuff, but I felt like it was going to do well in terms of like I know if I post a recipe, it's not going to do well. I know if I talk about nutrition, it's not going to do well. But if I post, okay, eat the cookie, that's going to do super well, which is an important message. But guess what? They all are important messages. And I just think that, again, in terms of all of these stuff, as a boss, as a business owner, I felt like I was trying to make, honestly, employees more happy than I was trying to make the right business decisions. And even with home decor, you guys, like, I mean, look at this space. If I were to tell you like, hey, I'm going to polka dot wallpaper up, most people would be like, I'm not putting that in my house. If you've seen the rest of my house, it's covered in wallpaper. It's covered in fun stuff. And just like not being afraid to express yourself and be truly authentically you, I really think is something that I have learned, because trying to please others just got me into a place where I hated what I was doing. And like I said, I really think one of the things too that I'm going to see in my 33rd year is making a lot more business decisions that feel very, very aligned with me. None of my views have changed. It's just that the internet and people have put me in a box. And in turn, I have probably also put myself in a box of, again, simple things like eat the cookie. Yeah, but also if I were to ever say, like sometimes the cookie's not the, decision that you need. Sometimes you need to go for a walk and cool down and realize that this cookie is not going to fix the argument that I just had. When I say that, oh my gosh, you are restricting, you are dieting, and I'm sick of it. I am sick of it. I'm sick of being put in a box. I'm sick of people trying to, I'm getting so passionate about this because this is how I felt for the past year, is that in order for me to be successful, I have to fit this mold, this narrative of what other people want me to say. And if I'm being completely honest, I think that's a ticket nowhere. I think that is what is actually not going to make your business succeed because you're not being authentically you. Again, nothing changes. Nothing has changed in the way that I view things. It's just that there's this perception of the right way to be when you have no food rules that didn't even come from me. Like I said, that came from people misconstruing things. And again, if that's what no food rules means to you, that is fine. But also, if ever speaking of nutrition or thinking about your food choices or any of that is triggering to you or not something you want to do, that's fine. But I'm probably not the person for you. And I have learned to be okay with letting that go, with letting the numbers on social media be less. As long as I'm happy, that matters so much more to me. And as long as I'm putting out content that I feel like is truly freaking helpful, who cares if it doesn't do well, right? Obviously, you want to, and that's the struggle, is when you have a message that you feel so passionately about, you want people to see it because it's an important message. So you want to try to do what you can to, put it out there and get people to see it. But getting people to see it can't be the main driver. And I know that sounds like so, I don't know, silly. I really thought I would never get to it. That's why part of the reason why I started therapy years ago was because I felt like social media was ruling my life and just years. Remember, you see how I just said years ago? Doing the work, you guys, takes a long time. It takes a long time. It's not going to happen overnight. You can see benefits, but I never thought I'd get to a place where I'm like, I'm so done playing the social media rat race. In my head, I was like, I want to be done, but I couldn't get myself to get there. So I really feel like, again, with my business, with content creation, with home decor, with everything, I just want to be happy, right? And do what makes me happy and what feels authentic to me. And I, like I said, really think that that is the way to, if you are a business owner, that's the only way that you can be successful. I think that's the only way that you can be successful. Okay, so spent too much time listening to others and trying to please others. And the last lesson I learned is money isn't everything. Okay, so I grew up, I'm just a simple Midwest gal from Michigan here. And growing up, I did not have anything handed to me. To this day, I still do not have anything handed to me. I am not going to try to, say I lived on, in a box. I lived on the streets, not, saying anything about that, but I had a stable roof over my head. I had food on the table. I had all of these bases covered, but working 4 jobs was not something that literally was not something that was out of my norm. To kind of give you an idea, I always had, I would say, at least 2 jobs in high school. And then when I got to college, we bumped it up to 4 because naturally, but I would work there was a bar I worked at until about 2 a.m. Then I would go home, sleep. I would get up for a 6 a.m. lifeguarding shift. I then taught spin classes. And then this was all in East Lansing, which is about an hour, a little bit over, away from Grand Rapids, where I live now. I also had a job in Grand Rapids working at a hospital in the call center. So I have always just been a hustler, you guys. I've always also had, because I had to pay my tuition. I had to pay my rent. I had to pay for groceries. I had to, that's just what I had to do. And But I do think that it also stemmed from a very, very scarcity mindset of there's never going to be enough. So you always have to do more. You always, always have to. And I really feel like in my 33rd year, I realized that as long as I have my bases covered, I have the roof over my head, I can live the life a comfortable life that I want. I don't need this huge skyrocket of income because what I've realized is when my business grew the most, it required me to do things I didn't want to do. So in terms of things like hiring a team I still have a team that I work with very closely. Shout out to Jessica, my right-hand gal, but I had multiple employees and I just felt like I was now managing people and that's not what I wanted to do. I just feel like things aren't worth it if it doesn't make you happy. So again, that's going to go into a lot of the business decisions that I make as I enter this next year of what lights me up. I want to get back to that. I want to get back to enjoying content creation and sharing information that I truly feel like is helpful for people, not just what people expect to hear from me. Because I think sometimes the hard truths are what we need, right? And so I'm very excited to just kind of get back to that and think about honestly expanding not that again, anything is going to change. You're still going to have all that stuff, but I'm excited to dive more into some of these other areas where I do feel passionately about. And I think that I don't know. I'm just really excited for the 33rd year. The 33rd year is going to be 33, the year of me. Call it cheesy. I don't care, friends. But that to me just means making gosh, this is wild. I have this necklace on and it says GWYG. I got this made I wanna say it was, like, when I first started therapy a few years ago, and it stands for "Go with your gut." Every single piece of jewelry I have has some kinda meaning behind it, whether it's, like, stamped with something, whatever it is. But that's exactly what I wanna do this year, and I look at it every single day. I also think jewelry is one of the best ways to remind yourself of something. Down to you guys, I have this is all most of my jewelry is made by Mary. Literally, the brand is called Made by Mary. Mary's not, like, my friend, and I'm like, "Hey, Mary, she made this." But I look at this every single day, and I'm reminded and I just made a decision yesterday about how I want to film something and edit it. And a couple people had said, like, I prefer this variation, but I was thinking about it this morning when I went for a run at the gym this morning. It's when I get my best clarity on things. Again, movement. We always talk about this. There's so many benefits beyond what it may or may not do for your body. I got the mental clarity that I get from running is just amazing. But I realized I was like, yeah, and yesterday I was fully ready to be like, yep, you're right. And honestly, the way they wanted me to do it was going to be easier on me. So I should have been like, cool, you guys prefer this, I'll do that. But I was like, it doesn't feel Colleen. It doesn't feel Colleen. So I'm going to do it a little bit of a combo way. But the way that feels authentically to me. And like I said, that goes into a lot of other different business. So I could cry right now. I'm so excited for a lot of the opportunities that I have coming up. I cannot wait to share them with you guys. Gosh, it just feels like in alignment. I think that's the best way to describe how I feel heading into my 33rd year is I truly feel like I'm in alignment with myself and that feels really freaking good. And I just want to help people get to this place as well, right? So I have been talking for 45 minutes. So I'm going to shut the heck up right now. I hope that I would love to hear your thoughts. Love, love, love to hear your thoughts on this because, like I said, I'm not going to lie, I was a little nervous recording this. And if you got all the way to the end, thank you for sticking around and being here with me because thank you for letting me ramble and for hearing me out, I think is one of the biggest things that I'm just thankful for being able to record this. So, like, I'm always like, haters are not going to listen to 45 minutes of you. That's the thing. Like, haters, they can get on, rabbit holes over like a 1 minute video. But if you are a hater and you hate listened to this, I am so sorry that you have nothing better to do with your time. Like, maybe that sounds like a cruel, mean thing to say, but genuinely, that sucks. But yeah, okay, I have been talking long enough. Thank you for being here and listening. We've got some amazing things coming up, and I'm very, very excited. So with that, I don't think you've been able to hear Theo snoring this whole time, but dude is zonked next to me. I'm going to go get some more coffee, and I will guys see you guys in the next episode. Love ya so much. Have a fabulous, fabulous day, friends. See you later.